This is Reimagining the Contact Center. I'm Marc Bernstein, and today I'm interviewing Shep Hyken, best-selling author, keynote speaker, and world-renowned customer service and customer experience expert. In this episode, Shep and I go at it. We're tackling the big question everyone's wondering: does customer service still even matter? Does customer experience matter? Is AI and automated and self-service options going to take over all of it? If you have a great customer experience versus a so-so one, who cares? Well, we go into that. We tackle that question head on. You're not going to want to miss it. Everybody, this is my interview with Shep Hyken. Shep, hey, really good to see you.
It is great to see you. Great to be here. Thanks so much.
Seriously, my pleasure. One of the things that I love about you and your organization is the amount of really quality research that you guys have done. Surveying over 1,000 people in the market, saying what do they think about customer service and what do they care about. We hear so much today about businesses and how businesses are obsessed with AI and are they willing to implement it? Are they getting ROI from it? But we don't hear as much around how do consumers feel about AI? Are they getting used to it? Do they like it? So let's kick it off there. Like, how do consumers feel about AI right now?
Well, I think that right now they're becoming more and more comfortable with it. It was just 2.5 years ago in November 2023, 22 or 23, ChatGPT comes out, which, by the way, I just heard from one of the people who worked at OpenAI that it was never really meant for the public to use, but it was so easy for them to use, and it's exciting. Here's what's interesting, and I'm going to get specific to your answer in a moment. If you look at what AI is and what it does, it automates, it does things for you, it almost thinks for you. This has been going on for years and years and years, and people don't even realize it. If you have a spam folder in your Gmail or your Outlook, and for the last 20, 25 years, mail has somehow been routed to that spam folder, right or wrong, usually right, it belongs there. Well, that's AI doing its thing. What's happened over the years, it's become more and more sophisticated. And by the way, sophisticated doesn't mean more expensive. What 10 years ago cost hundreds of thousands, if not $1 million, is now done with a simple license for a small business for like $30, $40, $50. I mean, you know this in your business. You can get licenses for software that are like almost negligible from the standpoint of the benefit you get from the cost. When 10 years ago, this stuff would have been tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands or more in dollars. All right. So, but your question is, what does a consumer think about AI? And I have research because, like you said, many companies think they know what AI can do and they're excited about what it can do, but have they ever actually gone to their customers and said, do you want this? And if so, are we doing it right? So 50% of customers have successfully resolved customer service issues using AI. That means half of them have. Now, does that mean the other half had a bad experience? Not necessarily. We found that almost 7 out of 10 customers choose to go to the phone before they go to or prefer that over a self-service option, which is often an AI-fueled option. And we go a step further to say, if we look at the breakdown, there are some customers that absolutely won't use AI. It's like 30 some odd percent. These are baby boomers, Gen Xers, the older generation that tends to want to do things traditionally. Well, if you look at that, well, that means that 50% of really about 70% of customers or so. So only 20% are saying, hey, maybe I don't like it. I don't know if I'm confusing you or making it harder, but 60% believe that AI has the potential to really take care of all basic customer service. And I say basic, not complicated, difficult things. And 47% said, which is basically half, said, I'm more comfortable this year than last year. So I think these are all really important things to consider. Now, are people frustrated? Almost 6 out of 10 people say it does frustrate them, 57% actually. And half of them say it scares them. People are actually scared of high-end technology. People think one day AI is going to rule the world. Maybe they're right. I don't know. I don't think we're going to be around to see that because it's going to be a long way. People think AI is going to take away jobs. AI is going to take away the jobs of the people who aren't using AI properly and getting the most of it. And AI is going to force people to do different jobs. Um, every CX leader, customer experience leader I talk to from major brands, I ask them, you have the money and the wherewithal to put an AI solution out there. And they go, yes, we're doing that. And they're using agentic AI, which means it's actually taking actions and doing processes, which makes it easier on the company. It's more efficient, and it's more efficient for the customer. I said, are you eliminating people? They go, oh, on the contrary, we're actually adding people because we have to upscale these people to be able to handle the more complicated issues, which means the calls are longer, which means we have to have a good team in place, a bigger team in place to take care of these more complicated issues.
So there's a few things that stood out, but I would say one thing that really hit me is you said, I think it was 57% of customers say that they're frustrated by AI,
Yeah.
and 50% say they're scared.
Yep.
So
Actually, 49%. Yep.
are we frustrating and scaring consumers? And is that what we're doing? Are we frustrating and scaring
Sometimes, yeah.
consumers?
I'm going to tell you why. When it's done right, customers notice. And then when it's done wrong, the customer says, why can't this company be as good as whatever the other company was that did it right? So that's frustrating. Some companies are still using legacy systems. Some companies still have servers in a big room somewhere with computer power instead of going to a cloud. And
Mm.
the reason they still have it is they go, we spent a lot of money on this. We need to drain every last penny of value out of this before we shift into what you would consider modern and updated technology, which is, by the way, so inexpensive. Get rid of the old stuff. We came up with a term. I was working with a company called NICE, NICE. They are an AI type of software solution. Anyway, they said they call it the Frankenstack, all these legacy systems that get stacked on top of each other. And the people who work for those companies have multiple programs and windows open trying to take care of the customer and get them the information they need. When today it can all be done in one place, so much easier. Anyway, I digress. The consumer is frustrated with some AI. So I just wrote 2 articles. The first article is titled, Just Because AI Can Do It Doesn't Mean It Should Do It. And I went into the reasons why. And the reasons, by the way, you want people involved is AI still can't show empathy. It can't make judgment calls in certain situations. Some issues are just too complicated for the AI to handle right now and be accurate every single time. That's important. I don't think even humans are off once in a while, so AI can be off as well. But the second article was titled, Even Though Humans Can Do It, Doesn't Mean They Should. In other words, let's make it easy for the customer to get information. Mark, when's the last time you took a trip on an
Was
airplane?
on an airplane, call it last month.
Last month. Did you call to make a reservation or did you go online and book it self-service?
Self-service.
Exactly. Can you think in the last 10 years that you might have called the airline to book a reservation?
Not to book a reservation.
Yeah, if there's a problem, more complicated, but the basics are the reservation. There's no reason for a customer to call an airline anymore unless there's a problem that the system's not doing, or maybe there's a glitch of some kind. And that's my point. Some things are just better for customers to do. Amazon, and we talked about Amazon very briefly before we started our interview. There is an example of a 100% self-service solution where they're open 24/7. You can buy 24/7. You get all the research you want on the product because they give you as much as possible. They even tell you other vendors you can buy it from outside of Amazon's Prime program that might even be less expensive. That's how confident they are that you'll stay with Amazon because of the Prime program and the guarantees and everything that goes with it. And then if there is a problem, you go to the website and it says, click here for customer support. What's the problem about? Give me the tracking information or the order number so that we can look at it. And basically, you are thinking at that moment, you don't realize you're in a self-service mode. You might be thinking, oh, I'm just putting in the information so when the customer service rep gets it, they're all up to speed. No, you're actually putting that information in so AI can tell you what's going on and answer your questions. But if it doesn't, it's as if you still don't feel you're getting what you want. I'm not using the right words, but basically the gist of it is if you're not happy, put your phone number in right over here and we'll call you. And about the time you put the number in and then hit enter, the phone starts ringing almost instantaneously. And it's a rep saying, hey, I'm here to help you. I see you're calling about this order. Apparently there's a problem. Tell me more. I mean, you're continuing the conversation. Most people don't get to that point because the AI and the system has done what it's supposed to do. And there's an example of the human backup supporting AI with the most, in my mind, technology-focused AI-forward company in the world.
Shep, that example is so good. In fact, I think it's perfect and very fitting that we jumped from airline to Amazon. Because if you're sitting here saying, okay, what do an airline and Amazon have in common? The first answer, the quick answer is about nothing.
Right.
Well, the airline is a service and they put you on a several $100 million metal tube and fly you somewhere and have people walk around and, make sure you're safe and hand you snacks and drinks. Amazon doesn't, you don't interact with the equipment at all. It's the boxes is the most expensive thing that you touch as the consumer. They're in not a regulated space. Airlines are highly regulated. Like they seem entirely different, but both companies, you mentioned how they have experiences where consumers can be better off handling things on their own. So I wonder, are we headed, when you look at how technology is getting better and better, and if those two very disparate industries are both doing self-service work, very well, are we headed toward a totally self-service world where when you lose your luggage, you're not on a phone calling somebody, you're going to the lost luggage bot, and it takes a second and helps service you that way? Like, is that going to be the world we go to, and will that be a better world?
Well, the answer is yes, yes, and yes. That is the world we're going to. I hardly ever check my luggage because in my mind, there's two kinds of luggage on an airplane. There's the overhead luggage and then there's lost luggage. Think about that for a second. Good, you're smiling. It's a joke. But once in a while, they do lose the luggage. And one time they did lose my luggage. And as I'm walking off the plane, I get a text message from, I won't tell you the name of the airline, but the initials are AA for Anonymous Airlines or American Airlines. Okay, it was American. And this is, by the way, this is a great story. And this is why I love their system. And they treat me right. I am one of the ones that, look, I understand air travel. And if you don't travel a lot and you have a bad experience, you get really angry at the airline, threaten to never fly them again. But when you're on long enough to see what bad looks like and why it's bad, and you understand you have no control over weather, you don't want to be up in an airplane when there's a mechanical issue. Find out about it before we take off. I really appreciate that. I'll take a little delay. It's fine with me. But here's what I received, the text message. It said, your luggage is not going to be at the carousel. For some, I can't remember why, it didn't get on the flight. It's going to be on the next flight. Please text us below what address you're staying at, and we will have it delivered by 6 o'clock tonight.
Wow.
Is that perfect?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, guess what?
Well,
It
I would want
worked.
maybe a little "we're sorry" and here's a
Oh,
drink
they said all
coupon
of
or
that.
some
They
or
did all
something.
of that. I'm
Yep.
just giving you the gist of it all.
Yeah.
I will tell you, I did have to call them because I said, wow, I'm in a little bit of a bind. I need something in that luggage. I'm going to a meeting where I have to be dressed a little bit nicer. And they said, no problem. Go to the store, buy what you need, send the invoice here.
Get out.
Yeah. By the way, that's what they'll do. If your luggage is lost, even temporarily, they will give you, you can't go out and buy a $2,000 Brioni sport coat if you can even buy one for 2,000. Okay. But you can go and, pick up some nice clothes if you need them. And, I believe this. There are people that will take advantage. And then there are others that go, you know what, I'm not going to buy a $500 sport coat. What do you have on sale? What do you, I just need something to make me look a little bit better than I do in a t-shirt and jeans.
Will that type of experience be doable with AI?
As I mentioned earlier, AI still can't make judgment calls. Maybe it also won't show empathy. It will say, I'm sorry, but will you really believe that a machine is sorry? So I think that there is always going to be a place for the human interaction when it's needed, but so many things can be done at a very basic level that will be more efficient. It will be, more convenient for the customer, and it's also better for the company. This is where your cost savings takes place. When I don't have to call a company for something simple that could be easily handled by AI. And that way, that agent can spend more time with a customer that really needs to be helped.
If you think about empathy, it's um, one of the common things that we hear. Oh, people can be empathetic, machines can't be empathetic. Therefore, we're going to continue to see a lot of customer service with people. Um, how many times can a person be empathetic 50 times a day?
I
Like
just
truly,
wrote an article.
genuinely empathetic? Like, can
I
they
would,
really go, oh, I that you really didn't get your package on time? That's frustrating. I'm sorry. Like, can you?
so there's two articles I wrote. One of them came out today. It's called First Time Energy, and it has to do with that exact situation. It cracks me up. The number one question, Mark, I bet you know the answer to this. If you go to Disney, what's the number one question that a guest at the theme park asks a Disney employee, also known as a cast member?
Where's the bathroom?
Exactly, exactly. Where's the bathroom? Can you imagine being asked that question 50 times a day? And by the 40th or 50th time, you go, yeah, what where the bathroom is? I'll tell you where the bathroom, and you're screaming. But no, they deserve your first time energy. So the best people are able to compartmentalize and say, this person in front of me is the most important person. Anything that happened before or that's been going on in my life, or the fact that somebody may have already asked me this question 50 times. So my cartoon, and I do a cartoon every week. The cartoon had somebody in front of technical support, and the customer says, I bet you get asked this question all the time. And the person behind the counter says, I do, but this is the first time that you've asked that question. So that was this week's cartoon. The other one, let's see, that I just wrote. Oh shoot, it was the one I actually started on. Um, that oh, I'm drawing a blank on it now, but it's coming up soon. I try to work about 2 or 3 weeks ahead. But these cartoons really, in my mind, they simplify the idea and bring it down to such common sense. Uh, but anyway, I think AI can also stand for artificial incompetence. So
Yep.
if we get bad information, and occasionally we will, in an old legacy system, I was trying to buy a docking station for my computer, which is when I come home, I take my laptop and I set it down and I plug it into a little box, and that box has a monitor and a big keyboard. So it basically turns my little laptop into a full-blown computer. And when I was looking at the docking station, it didn't show any other cords coming out of the docking station. So I wonder if there's an electrical cord, or do I have to power this separately, my computer separately? So I asked the question, a little chat bot pops up and says, how can I help you? I go, I'm interested in this docking station. When I put the computer, connect it, does it charge the computer, or will I need to charge it with my own charger? I thought that made sense. And the response was, which computer do you want to buy? And I said, I want to buy a computer. I want to buy the docking station. Does the docking station charge the computer? Second response, which computer do you want to buy? There's an example of an old system that basically has been given a script that if somebody asks this, this is the answer. You know how that works. If then what? And then, but in this particular case, it was misunderstanding me. So I asked it 2 or 3 more times, and then I called the company. And I
Mm,
immediately got through, which kind of made me happy. And the person said, can you tell me what your customer number is? I have no idea what my customer number is. They said, well, look at the bottom of your computer. And I flipped it over and I read it to her, and she goes, oh, great. Thank you very much. Please hold. I'll connect you to the correct department. And now that took a long time. When the person finally gets on, the first question they ask me is, what's your customer number? I already gave the customer. Do you see why this is frustrating? AI
excruciating.
could have handled so much of this in a completely different way. The modern version of AI. Now, you asked me about replacing people. There's an old saying, there's an old song. Video killed the radio star. It didn't. Okay. When MTV came along, the first song ever played by the Buggles was Video Killed the Radio Star. And we still have radio stations. We still have recordings. We don't need to see videos to enjoy music. I often talk and write about Barclays, the bank that came out with the ATM in the 1960s. The ATM, the machine where you go and you collect, get cash when you need it or make a deposit outside of regular banking hours. And everybody thought no more tellers will be needed. But every single bank I go to that has an ATM machine right on premise, there's still tellers working behind the counter to take care of customers. And if it's easy, do it. By the way, I also suggest teaching customers to use your self-service system. If you've called me and I'm helped you with something, I would say, hey, do you know you could have gotten this information much quicker? And here's my first question as an agent. Where'd you get my phone number? I went on the computer. So you were already starting the self-service solution and just decided to jump to analog, talking to me. Not the word I would use, but I said, now imagine, do you see the little button right next to the phone number? Click there and look at this, the category that you were interested in talking to me about. It's right there. You wanted to know what your bank balance was. You wanted to know when your shipment was going to arrive. Whatever the question is, it was a simple one. And that way, we wouldn't have had to put you on hold for a few minutes. I wouldn't have had to ask you all the questions about your grandmother's maiden name and everything else that goes along with that to authenticate you. You would have been able to do this quickly, efficiently, much faster. And so that's my story when it comes to why AI should be used in the right places, and then recognize there's also places it shouldn't be used.
I do wonder how long that's transitory, though. You think of artificial intelligence, and I do think we actually have all seen and experienced times where it does act like artificial incompetence. And because we're humans and we reason in a different way, when AI is wrong, it feels stupidly wrong. It feels like so obviously wrong that you're like, how do you not know how many days ago Sunday is? And it's like, oh, sorry, like my model is different. So it makes those sort of mistakes, which feel particularly dumb to us. But one of the things that I'm inspired by is I'm inspired by like how scientists think, and I think we can apply that more to, the business world, and especially since AI is, basically a branch of science. It certainly is a branch of science. We should make sure that we're kind of understanding it, with a little bit of a scientific mindset. And one of the things I've seen scientists do is they look at how things are and they kind of break it up into its properties. So they say, what's an electron? Well, electron has this many up quarks and this many down quarks. It is this much mass, it is this much charge. And, and they break it into its properties. And then they say, well, what if I were to take this property and change it, right? What if you had, electron, but zero mass? What would that do? So I wonder if we were to apply that same sort of thinking to AI and say, let's take the incompetence aspect out. We just took that knob and changed it and said, whoop, nope. Now it's competent, fully competent, just as capable as a person. How then does the customer experience landscape change?
I think, you're asking for something that's not happening right now. And I think it's going to be a long time before it does. But let's say that AI is capable of doing everything that we just talked about, and humans are no longer needed, which, again, I don't think that's going to happen. What happens is companies become complete commodities with no capability of connecting on an emotional level with the customer. So customer has no loyalty to anything other than price. Because at this point, if everybody were to switch to the inexpensive but very effective AI solution, they'd all be able to handle those basic questions easily. What differentiates them is what happens next when it's something a little bit more difficult. So I think that we have to be very careful the way we think. There's no doubt that one day AI is going to do so much more than it does today. Like, this is just the scratching of the surface. It's going to be incredible. To hear this guy, Zach Cass, who is with OpenAI, talk about the future, he goes, and I don't know if I buy into this yet, but I think it's an interesting idea. A lot of people's identity is based on what they do for a living because it's such a big part of their lives. We're going to have to learn that that's not the most important thing. Most important thing is to enjoy life. And AI can give us the luxury to do that provided, we think of it differently and we use it effectively. Now, there are going to be, I mean, maybe in the future, there'll be robots that can do what I'm about to say, but if anybody wants to be guaranteed a living in the next 25 years, go to trade school and learn how to fix a pipe, be a plumber, be a HVAC expert, because it's going to take people to go in. Maybe AI will diagnose it, but somebody's got to go and fix it, right? Replace it. And until there are robots that are truly capable of doing that, I think we're a little bit off from that. I mean, yeah, we can cut our lawn with a Roomba type of lawn care, a little machine that goes back and forth over a lawn. I think that's a pretty cool thing, unless you have a really large lawn, and then you still need people. People are going to want to get together and go to dinner and eat, and maybe there's going to be some robots in the back cooking up the food and help, but somebody has got to make sure the recipes are right, that it's consistent, the people are being taken care of, they're being treated like a guest. All of those things are human to human interactions. You play drums and live music. People are going to want that. So there are going to be jobs and capabilities for everybody. I mean, how much fun will it be? Hey, let's go out to a club and watch an empty stage, but hear great music. We're going to see a live performance. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, Shep, I'm very much on the same camp. I think we are going to see people enjoy human experiences more. Basically, what the Zach at OpenAI said, I almost fully subscribe to. Um, and I think that, when we do place a lot of our value in our professions, but we also place a lot of our value in our intelligence. We as humans are proud of being the most intelligent things that we know of. We don't know of anything that's more intelligent than us. So we kind of feel like masters of the universe in that way because we can manipulate, the space around us and tools and set goals and go after those goals in ways that everything else that we've seen can't.
Yep.
And we're going to have to drop that as something that is a particular point of pride when AI becomes more intelligent than us, which, my perspective is that we're actually going to see that very soon. I think it could be 10 years. But I think that we're going to very soon see AI certainly able to outthink, folks who aren't Nobel Prize winners. And then when can it get to the point where it's outthinking a Nobel Prize winner across all domains? So you have one AI, it's basically a Nobel Prize winner in biology and also a Nobel Prize winner in physics and also a Nobel Prize winner in economics. That's what, a lot of folks are talking about as like powerful AI, or some folks will define that as AGI, artificial general intelligence. But one of the things you said, Shep, that I really appreciate is that it will lead, if, consumers are not having touch points with businesses, that will lead to more commoditization. And
Right.
I've personally experienced that. I was thinking about when you said that, my dad, he's in his, he actually just turned 80, and he has a guy for everything. He has his shoe guy. He has, his, furniture guy. He has a guy for everything. And he goes, "Oh, that's my guy." And he goes back to the store and says, "Joe." And then, we'll go and only buy from Joe. And he's actually, I've talked about this. He's a little bit sad that that world kind of seems to be dissipating a little bit because Joe doesn't work there anymore. And it used to be people would work someplace, and as long as you're happy and it paid you well, you'd stay there
Yep.
for a really long time. And now he goes back and there is no Joe, and he can't form those sort of relationships that he used to. And he goes in, they just kind of treat him like the next customer. So I guess what I'm wondering is the world with technology and with society, is the world trending toward everything being more commoditized?
I think so. And again, the differentiators are going to be the ones that find a way to humanize the experience even a little bit. Amazon, even though they're so digital, people love them and they have incredible loyalty. Part of the reason is because they just don't sell, back in the day, a book and now pretty much everything else. They give you an opportunity to be part of a member, which actually some people call it a membership club, a loyalty club, or a loyalty program. It's really an amazing marketing ploy. So what they've done to separate themselves, and Jeff Bezos was very, very careful when he did this. He said, I want to give a reason for people to stay. And I don't think giving them free shipping for 25, 30 bucks a year is going to do it. So as he raised the price, he started to layer on value. Probably one of the biggest values is the Prime Video membership, which gives you access to movies and TV shows and sporting events and everything. And he said, we just need to keep that, because what happens, the mindset is, if you're willing to pay, now I think it's $120, $130 a year for that, you're going to want to get your money's worth. So you're not going to go somewhere else. And as long as the system does what it's supposed to do, you can order something, it gets delivered, you can track it. By the way, they have a great system. They email you for everything. Your order is placed, there's an email. Your order is shipped, and here's the tracking information. It's an email. Your order's shown up, and there's a picture of it leaning up against your doorstep. That is all. It's email. People hate getting email. Not really, if it's relevant email. And in this case, the email is giving information that makes the customer feel confident about the transaction or interaction they're having with the company. So very few companies are going to be able to do that. But a lot of companies are going to be able to create the blend. And as I mentioned earlier in our conversation, some of the greatest companies, the biggest companies that are out there, are finding that the balance of customer service through AI or experience through AI versus human is there. They just have to find it. And in talking, like I have these quarterly interviews with the senior VP worldwide. Actually, he's not senior VP, he's the chief experience officer worldwide for Verizon. And I always ask, if things change, are you still hiring people? Are you finding ways to cut people with AI? He goes, oh no, we're still adding. So, and I find that's the same with executives with Hewlett Packard and a number of other major companies that are both, and Samsung especially, their goal is to deliver a service experience. When you've got a consumer technology item like a refrigerator or a television, those are large items. You can't put that in the back of your car and take it into the service center. Although I believe 90 some odd percent, I think it's like 90% of the US population is within a 30-minute drive to a service center that would handle a smaller item. But they now have technology built into the equipment that will inform the customer and Samsung that there's a problem. Your refrigerator is running warm. You need to go check and make sure you didn't inadvertently turn the knob and make it warmer. Otherwise, there's a problem. We need to get somebody out there right away. I mean, that's proactive. That's the way you're going to be able to beat the commoditization, is to create an experience that really puts that customer first, even if it is a digital experience.
In that case, do you see companies like Samsung and Verizon being the outliers in continuing to hire more people? Meaning, is the narrative that we're hearing that like AI is coming to slash a lot of jobs? Do you think that narrative is just misguided, or do you feel like it really differs by company or by industry? Like, what do we think we're going to see in terms of, are these companies still going to be hiring people?
Sure, a great question. And I think the ones that aren't and the ones that are going the opposite direction are finding they're making mistakes in doing so. There is a balance that needs to be achieved. There may be some efficiencies where you can cut some people for some companies, but other companies are recognizing the power of what AI is giving them. It's making them better and more efficient, not leaner necessarily, but more efficient. So in your world, you understand average handle time, and the idea of, I call somebody, a company, I need help, and how long is it going to take for this person on the phone to take care of me? Well, now it's not just that you want to measure, you also want to measure how long it takes them to do it if they do it self-service. Now, self-service, it doesn't matter how long it takes, but you want to know, because that lets you know if you're doing it efficiently or not, okay? So the company that decides they want to go all in 100% digital and leaves the human-to-human experience behind, almost every one of those companies are going back to incorporating human-to-human experiences. Maybe they're not using as many people And by the way, that's going to probably come back and bite them as well. But they're still doing it. So I think the narrative is this: if you think you can do it without humans, you're probably wrong at this point. And it's that
Brilliant.
simple. Again, my article, AI, even though AI can do it, maybe it shouldn't do it. And even though humans can do it, maybe they shouldn't do it. So what is it that they're supposed to each be doing? You need to be very clear with that definition of what it can do. I was just sitting in a board meeting with CCW, Contact Center Week, which is run by CMP, Customer Management Practice. All these acronyms drive me crazy, but I'm on their board of advisors. And we had this great discussion with some phenomenal, large, iconic, recognizable brands. And one of the people said, our board, our CFO and everybody, they are very concerned because of the money that we're losing because of AI, giving bad information, creating an experience that's commoditized. And somebody stepped up and what's the name of his company? Shoot, drawing a blank on it. Doesn't matter. Anyway, he said, I think you're looking at the metric the wrong way. Just because you might lose money with AI, have you taken a look at how much you're really losing and how often you really lose it, and compare it against people-to-people communication? How often somebody's saying, I don't like the customer service rep I was dealing with. That person must have been having a bad day. They didn't show me empathy, respect, et cetera, et cetera. As a matter of fact, they gave me bad information and my problem's still a problem. Okay. You're losing money on both sides. So if you want to create the case that AI is great and you want your company to invest in it, you've got to go to where the money is. And that money is handled by the CFO and other people at the leadership level. And you've got to create the case. You've got to give them clear, factual information. You can use research to start it, but then you've got to give specific, here is a scenario that would happen in our business. And when you start to create that case study, they're going to see, the leadership will see, you know what? It's probably a good idea to invest in AI. Because here's the thing, if you're not doing it, your competitor is probably doing it. And you're not only going to be playing catch up with technology, you're going to be playing catch up to get back the customers that you lost as a result of not having the technology and them moving on to their competitors. Let me share with you a great example. There's a stat that I have. Even though using the phone, I mentioned that 7 out of 10, really 68% of people still prefer the phone over self-service. While using the phone may still be king, 63% and 63% reject self-service, at this point. Not offering self-service can be a deal breaker because 34% of customers have stopped doing business with a company or brand because self-service options were not provided. Guess what the age of those people are? They skew to the younger side because this is what they're used to. And if you are dealing with a customer base that includes a wide range of ages from young to old, well, you've got to accommodate all of them. If you are still trying to accommodate just your traditional customers and you haven't caught up and you still are servicing a younger customer, they're expecting more from you than ever before. And it's not even that expensive to give it to them, but you've got to take the time and the effort to make that happen.
I just looked up what's the largest generation ever. I was curious, like, is Gen Alpha, this newest generation, the largest one? Turns out Gen Alpha is people born between 2010 and 2024.
They're 14 years old.
Yep.
The oldest one, and they are your future.
Yes. So the largest generation ever born is about to mature into going to college and, going to IKEA and getting all their furniture and then starting to have to pay their own bills and starting to, so that, and then, obviously be in the workforce. So we're, I think, about to see that trend explode. Now, again, it might take 10 years, but the trend of people favoring self-service, it seems like that's about to skyrocket.
Yeah. And not only that, on the other end of the age spectrum, you have a group of customers that are going to start changing habits. They're going to start moving out of big homes into smaller places. They're going to be looking at retirement communities. They're going to be looking at all the things that need to be taken care of the way they traditionally thought they were being taken care of. There's a huge opportunity for that as well. So the opportunities lie everywhere. You just have to decide which ones you want to go after and make sure you do it right.
Shep, I love your balanced perspective. Really, because I'm unhinged. I'm unhinged. I'm all on one side. I'm like, oh yeah, we're about to have super intelligent AI, practically take over the world and hopefully be a good takeover. So it's nice talking to somebody who has a balanced perspective. I'd love to hear your thoughts on just if you could project 3 years out, where do you see AI going overall?
I see it getting better. I see more people getting comfortable with it. I see people learning how to use self-service solutions. And I think if we look at that number of 68% prefer the phone, 3 years from now, it's still going to be about, I'm going to say 55%. It's not like going to go away. We're just talking 3 years out. If we go 10 years out, it's going to be a little bit better. But I think that what makes it hard is that there's constant reinvention and actually constant invention. So I can't tell you what jobs are going to be created 10 years from now because I can't imagine what they're going to be. But I think there's going to be some, there's going to be this transition. I think we're at a point where if you think about what the greatest inventions ever in the world were, the wheel, fire, the Gutenberg press, allow mass production of content in a sense. The microchip, which goes into everything. And, the idea that we could carry a smart device with us, we stopped calling it a phone because some people don't even use it for what it is, which is a phone, right? I mean, what's it going to be like? You ever see Minority Report, the movie, Tom Cruise walking down the street and, they can read what's going on in his head. And I'm that guy that says, put a chip in my neck. And if you'll make my life better, go ahead, follow me around. I don't think I can do anything that's going to really embarrass me that badly. Definitely don't plan on doing anything illegal. But I'm that guy that wants that to happen. But I also know that at this point in our lives, it's going to be a long time before humans say, I don't care about interacting with other humans.
Shep, this was so fun. Thank you so much for joining me. Really enjoyed it.
I had a great time. Great questions, Mark. Thank you for having me.